Hi, my name is Weston Lueddemann, and I'm here with Ryan King. I'll be doing my informational interview today and just asking him a couple of questions about, his current role in business and um, how that might pertain to my interest in a career path. My first question is, can you walk me through your career path and how you got to your current role?
Yeah, that's let's see. My current role is a senior vice president for Manson, and I manage all of our operations from San Diego to Alaska over to Guam. So that's my current role. And I got there. I studied construction management at the University of Washington. Graduated from school there. Then I went to work for a large, heavy civil construction company, Kiewit Construction. Started as a field engineer, and my job there, or sorry, let me back up. Construction management is about a third business classes. It's a third construction class management and a third uh, of civil engineering classes. So it's a mix of things. And the goal is to be able to manage construction projects outside of building the work. You're managing all the different facets. So my first job was a field engineer with Kiewit down in Southern California. We built a new toll road there, and my job was to I worked for the bridge building division, so I worked as a field engineer building bridges, all facets in the ground and up in the air. And so my job was to track our labor cost out in the field. So I review time cards to keep track of how they were doing, using Excel spreadsheets and things like that, and I compare it to our budget to make sure we were, on budget. And if we weren't, figure out why or why not, along with some other people. I mean, I was really the basic guy. I would just find the information and share it. My other function was to plan the work. So you get a set of plans, and it shows you a bridge, and it tells you a few things there, but someone's got to figure out how to take it from the plans and then give a plan, detailed plan of the guys in the field building the work. So my job was to take the engineering drawings and turn it into something, communicate something more in layman's terms, so our crew could go build it, and then find, just make sure we build it right. Um, those are probably my primary functions. So I was a field engineer on that job. Then I went to another job in Salt Lake City and was a field engineer for a while. And then when I was in Salt Lake City, I was promoted to a project engineer, which is um, so I was in Salt Lake City rebuilding the freeway for the Olympics down there in I-15. You've probably driven on it.
That's
That
sweet.
big that big exchange from 15 to 80, where there's all those bridges up in the air. There's actually 140 bridges around that area. By the way, you count bridges. Anyways, I was on that segment of the job, and I was a project engineer, and so my job was then got expanded. I had engineers that worked for me, and they still did the things I described at my previous job. But I was also responsible to get subcontractors signed up, and we had a lot of them. Sign them up, and then manage all their process, all their billings, and all their changes, and all those sort of things. And I was responsible for our project schedule, which was quite large on a project that size. So it's a big job. So I was responsible for that. And then other business at that point, become the main person responsible for some of the business functions, commercial functions on a construction project. So I did that for 2 years, and then I became a superintendent. So I went from being in the office as a project engineer to a superintendent out in the field. Now I was responsible for the crews outside. So I'd have field engineers and people give me packages and tell me information about our costs and that sort of stuff. But I would be responsible to manage day-to-day operations out in the field. I wouldn't build anything, but I'd be responsible for all the craftsmen that are out there building the bridges. And so that's what I did there, and that's all about scheduling and communicating. Which at the end of the day, when you grow up like me someday, Weston, you'll figure out everything you do is communicating with people. That's really that's what it is. That was kind of the start of that. I did that for a couple of years, and then my job, I went moved to Portland and became an estimator in the office. So I was estimating projects like this in the office. I did that for a couple of years. So we'd estimate it and pursue the jobs. That's all running numbers and calculations, and that's all that is running numbers and trying to figure out to be a little better. Well,
Yeah,
I guess
that's
part of it's figuring out how you're going to build it too and schedule. There's more to it than that, but it's you got to figure out what equipment you use. You got to figure out a schedule before you turn in a bid. You got to figure out how much it costs. You got to read all the plans and specs. Anyway, so I did that for a couple of years. Then I went to Benicia Bridge in the Bay Area, and I was still a superintendent there. Um, that's a pretty significant bridge. It's a mile and a half long and it's 200 feet in the air. So I did a lot of planning there for the first couple of years. We drove 8 foot diameter pile into the ground in the Carquinez Straits there. So I had to figure out how we were going to do that, and make sure they're in the right place. And then I planned a lot of work there. We'll just keep it simple. Planned a lot of work because it's very complicated. So more than just a field engineer, you need someone with some experience. So that's what I did there. And then I became a superintendent, and I built. Now again, I built things out on the bridge, big things. For example, I built a 2,000 ton square footing up in the air, and then we had to lower it down over the piles, and then glue it. For simple words, I had to glue it to the pile then so they could build the bridge on top of it. So I did that again, superintendent. Then I went up to the top, and I built the superstructure, the extra drive. When you go over the Benicia Bridge, there's about a third of it that I was responsible for, and so we had about 80 people up on top doing different facets. So I managed my crews and then all the subs and all the people that were there. It was my responsibility to manage them, schedule it. We essentially built 16 feet at a time, 200 feet in the air, and then we'd launch at 16 feet. And then we'd start the cycle over again. So it was my job to make sure we stayed on the cycle, coordinate all those people so we got all that stuff done and were able to build the bridge out. So that was that. Well, I'm taking too long here. Then kind of my next job after Benicia, I went to Redding, California, and became a project manager that was about $100 million job by the time it was done. And I was responsible for the whole job, the success of the whole job. Dealt with the owner, dealt with changes, dealt with project engineers, field engineers, superintendent. They all worked for me and reported to me, and ultimately responsible for the success of the job. Then what did I do? My next job was I went to another big job and became a project controls. So somewhere between a project manager and then a project manager on a big job, there's somebody in the middle that's helping the guy running the job do all the business functions because there's so much to do on some of these larger jobs. You got to have a few people in a role. So I was project controls again. I was back to doing subcontracts, cost control, managing all the folks in the field, managing all the paperwork that goes on the job. And after that, then I left Kiewit at that point and went to work for Manson Construction, which is where I am now. And I went there to be an estimator for the rest of my career. And within the first few months, someone asked me to apply to be a vice president, so responsible for a business division. And so I did, and then I became that. And then that the difference between a project manager and a person in this role is I'm responsible for every single job in our division. So, and I'm responsible to hire the people to build the jobs. I'm responsible to make sure there's procedures and process and make sure we build it safe, make sure we build it efficiently, make sure we're building it to the contract values, make sure we're building it in a quality way. So I'm responsible overall for that stuff, not day to day. And so I had a number of project managers report to me. And I did that for about 6 years. And then about 5 years ago, I was asked to run another division. So there was the equivalent of me, and that person retired. And instead of hiring somebody else, I took over his role and so now I had 2 divisions working for me. Still had a bunch of project managers. Somewhere in that, I created a new position called a sponsor. So sponsors kind of do what an area manager does. They're responsible for a lot of jobs, but I've kept them as out in the field, really making sure the jobs go and nothing overall in those regions. And then about 2 years ago, no, last year I took over a 3rd division. And again, there's no area manager. The guy retired. That's my role. but I have a sponsor. So now I have four sponsors that work for me, and they are responsible, like I said, for all the work in the field, making sure that people are doing things right. They follow the standards that we established 5 or 6 years ago, and so they build to that. And the reason I have four, I'm responsible for three areas, but we just picked up a $800 million job this year, and so
Wow.
my best sponsor, not my best sponsor, one of my key sponsors, one of my most experienced sponsors, he is actually running that job because it's so large, it's bigger than any business unit. So he's the sponsor slash project manager director of that project. So that's why there's four. So does that answer your question in a long-winded way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was perfect. It kind of relates to my interest too, how you were like comparing costs and all the Excel stuff, because I'm going into accounting and finance is what my majors are. So kind of relates in that way, which is pretty cool. Let's see. What originally attracted you to this field, and was this the career you imagined while you were in college?
Yeah. How did I get attracted? I lived in Seattle. I moved to Seattle. Middle of my junior year of high school. I moved kind of like you in the middle of high school. And when I got here, all these bridges in Seattle that were supposed to go downtown, they never finished. So they just stuck out like sore thumbs. And I'm like, I just didn't understand that. But I thought, man, that's cool. Somebody has to build that someday. And then when I moved here, there's a lot of skyscrapers being built, so they're going up in the air. And I just thought, how cool that'd be to be a part of that, something you could see after you were done.
Yeah,
So that's what attracted me to it. Did it meet what I thought it would be? No, I didn't. I didn't understand. I guess I didn't understand. When I went to college, I didn't even know there was a construction manager. I thought you had to be a civil engineer or you had to be some sort of craftsman to be involved in construction. So I didn't know that, and it was fun, but it's I don't know if it met my. I don't know that I had expectations when I really just didn't understand. I don't think I really understand what I was getting into to go build stuff. And then what I studied at school was more related to buildings because that's the way the Husky program was. And I went into heavy civil. I was outside um, building bridges and things like that. And so I don't really know how to answer the question. That my experience. It's been a good career. It's a great career. It still is fun to go and see things you built. I guess I never understood that my job and most of us in our industry, we are dealing with people's time because they have a schedule to get things done. We're dealing with their money. People get pretty sensitive, even if it's a government. People get sensitive about money, and that's not always. Those things are not always fun. And so it's time, money, and then it's usually there's changes which impact time and money, and then people. And so that's I probably didn't understand all that stuff, and I'm not sure I would have. I'm not sure you can be educated to understand all that stuff. You kind of got to just dive into it. But
yeah,
yeah, people's time and money is people get excited.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Pick a good one for you. What skills do you use most in your role, and what do you most enjoy about your role in your job?
What skills do I use most? I probably it's kind of scary, but I use my communication skills, which aren't that great, but that's what I use the most of. In trying to influence people to move in certain directions. I don't mandate those things. I feel like my job is to clear a path so my sponsors can get their work done. So I work pretty hard to work through departments or deal with tough clients. If things get nasty, I try to be the person to do those things. And so that's all communication. And what was the second part of that question? What do I like
Um,
most?
yeah, what do you enjoy most about your job?
I enjoy watching the sponsors that work for me grow, and one of them is much smarter than I am and better than I ever could dream of, and I'm excited to see him take over someday. And the other three aren't that far behind. So I just love watching people grow, and I like watching them teach other people younger than them grow and become better, and just watching our organization grow. It's just that's awesome, that part of it. And then the second part is really a job's done. And it's really cool to go by it and know I had some sort of part in it.
Yeah, like driving over the Bay Bridge.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's right. And then we built a bridge here in Seattle. There's a floating bridge. It's about 2 miles long. It goes from Bellevue to Seattle, and I led
Wow.
the estimate for Kiewit, and Kiewit Manson were joint venture partners. I didn't work on it, but I was part of that with both the companies I've worked for my career. So it was pretty cool to drive over that thing. And that's when
Yeah.
I was in school. When I was in school, they were talking about rebuilding it. And when I got to Kiewit my first year, they were talking about they're going to rebuild this bridge someday. So it's really cool to drive over it. No, for 20 years, I was hoping we'd build it.
Yeah, that is sweet. I gotta come visit you guys and check that out.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's good you waited. We'll have the remodel done here in a few weeks. So
Yeah.
there'll be some
Um,
space downstairs. Right now, it's a little crowded. I
yeah,
feel
Jacob.
sorry for Grace.
Yeah, Jacob was telling me you guys have like two kitchens and it's like the
Yeah,
upstairs,
that's where
downstairs.
I'm sitting right now. I'm down in the downstairs kitchen. It's
That's
about a three-quarter kitchen, but it's enough to survive here for 6 months.
yeah, that's super cool. Don't have to go up and see the family if you want to get some food.
That's right.
Perfect for Jacob.
Jacob and Grace have to fund their own food now. We only stock one kitchen.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's see here. What are some common misconceptions about this field or your role?
Let's see this field construction. I think common misconception is our clients think we're out to get them. We're looking for the big change order so we can make money. They don't appreciate that their plans and specs don't always add up to what they want. Um, so that's tough. I mean, we're always thought of as we're about a notch above a used car salesman in most people's mind, which really sucks. Let's see, and then misconception about my role. Uh, I don't know.
You ever
I,
experienced like people thinking that you kind of just sit there and not do much and have everybody work for you after
yeah,
you big?
yeah. I think they sometimes people put you on a pedestal like you're like you don't. I don't know. It's not. It's not like I don't know how to describe it, but I'll try. It's like they think you don't care or you're better than them, or then there's people who don't like to be told what to do. And my job is to protect the company and do what the company wants us to do because I work for a company that has a vision. And so I think people misconstrue, trying to be a boss, telling people what to do with a power stroke versus really what it is trying to get everybody in line doing the same mission.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. It's not horrible, but I guess that's probably the best thing I could think of as a general comment.
Yeah, I know some people kind of see that in that way as like you don't really do much, but I think it's a big part. I mean, the company wouldn't be where it is without your
Yeah,
role.
yeah. I mean, the difference is when you get into leadership versus what you'll do right out of school is a leadership role. You're not getting paid to get a to-do list done, and that's been a hard transition for me because I was a checklist to-do list guy. I put a sheet together with what I was going to do today, and I didn't leave till I got done. I still have a to-do list, but I never cross anything off. I just keep adding to it. And so I'm not a most people in a leadership role of a decent size. You're not there to produce things. You're there to manage the ship and make sure it's going the right direction with all the parts and pieces there. And that's really what it's about. And that's the neat thing about my job. I don't really time is not as getting things done on a checklist and time don't matter, but um, also counting on everybody else to do your stuff is not it's not easy, especially when you used to be a doer. It's a skill. A lot of people don't make it through leadership. Some of the smartest people I know because they can't let go of things and they get in these roles and they're still trying to do all their stuff and steer the ship and they just can't do it and they don't trust. It's the wrong word. They have a hard time letting other people do things. They can't let it be slightly different than what they think. So, anyways, did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see. And then this is kind of going into my like advice for, like me or my other peers. Um, if you were 20 again, just starting out, what would you do differently? And then what advice do you have for students who want to enter this field?
I was 20, what would I do differently related to my field or just in general going out to the work world or school or what aspect?
Probably just in general. I mean, you can kind of relate it to your job right now, but also just like
What what would I do differently?
that could be anything from like studying more to like applying to different jobs or
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I would do different. Well, I've often said it. I would have gone to school to learn what was taught. And what I mean by that is I went to school to finish a class and to get a grade and to get a job. I wish I wouldn't have done that. I look at Grace, the purpose of the interview, my daughter Grace. She is just very she's into studying. She's learning what she studies, and I think that's so awesome that she's passionate about what she studies. And I know other people like that, and then I know people like me that just went through school to get a job, and that's it. They both work, but it sure would have been a lot more. I think I would be a lot better at what I do if I just tried to learn what was being taught and really learned it, not just pass the test. So I would say go to school. And I know it gets monotonous and you guys are doing this and that, but go to school and just learn what even if it's easy, just listen and read and learn what you can learn. So you're just more rounded that way. That's what I would do over, or that's what I would try to do better, or do it all. Um, let's see. The second part of that was what? Your second question?
and then what advice do you have for students who want to enter this field?
I don't know if it's just related to this field, but yeah, maybe it is. I would say when you start your job, whatever that is, go in and try to learn. Don't try to go in and think you're smarter than the people you're working with because you just finished school, and that may be particular to our degree. So we have a lot of, so approximately half our company is craftsmen that come through the trades, carpenters and operators and pile butts, and then half of the staff all comes with a college degree. And we get a lot of young kids that come into construction anyways because of this dynamic, and they got to deal with our craftsmen. And then they come in, they think they know more than our craftsmen. And you know what? You may know how to run Excel better or run a calculator better, but you sure the hell don't know how to build something. And you have no clue. So that's one of the things I really caution our people at is our younger folks. And I look for younger folks that have been out in the field for internships because they understand who the people are that someday they're going to work for, but work that are going to work for them. But right now you're working with them. And if you learn the value of how great those craftsmen are at their job, they're going to help you way beyond what you could ever dream of, in our field anyway. So maybe that is mostly related to our field, but I would say just when you go to work, try to learn stuff. It's don't chase the money. I know everybody wants to make money too. I guess that's the second piece of advice. Don't chase the money. Find something you're passionate about, and you know what? You'll either find the money because you're passionate about it, whatever that is, or you'll find great joy in it because you love it. But when you're chasing the money, that's pretty hard. But that's a hard thing to understand when you're out of school and a lot of kids are in debt and then don't have much money
Yeah,
and then they've lived a pretty good life, and so it's a tough balance. But someday it'll come through, and someday if you really love it, and when you are successful, you'll really appreciate it a lot.
absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people say money is the root of all evil. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think we share a
that's
lot.
a bit necessary, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see, I got a couple more here. What experiences helped you the most early in your career?
Yeah, I this gets back to what I was just talking about. One stands out in my mind. I've told this story to a lot of people, but I the um, So I was in the office for about 9 months planning work on my very first job. And then I got assigned to go out in the field and be a field engineer, like I was describing earlier. And so my job was to um, plan the work. And so, like I said, we were building a bridge and we had to figure out how to build it. These bridges were about 80 feet in the air and they went over I-5 in Southern California. And so I had to figure out how to build a temporary structure where you could build the bridge on top of it. And so the guy, the superintendent hired, I met him, I was introduced to him, and he's he'd been in the business forever. And he after I met him, we went about our business, and then my boss goes, "Hey, Jim, he just got out of jail." I'm like, "Okay, that didn't bother me. That didn't faze me at all." I'm just like, "Well, what did he go to jail for?" He said, "Well, he killed somebody," and he was dead serious. I'm like, "Holy shit! Okay, that's a little different scenario."
Yeah.
So then he explained the circumstance behind it. We don't have to get into that, but it was a little bit intimidating. But this guy was about as nice as you could meet, and he worked so freaking hard. He's 56, 60 years old, and he's climbing these towers up in the air. He worked his ass off. He spent time explaining to me how you do things, and he didn't do that with everybody. But I was willing to listen, and he certainly knew I didn't judge him for whatever. And so I guess that experience in a nutshell is I learned from somebody that knew what they're doing. I communicated with him. He communicated with me. I respected him. He respected me. We had different phases in life, and between the two of us, we did some pretty great things there. I mean, there's more involved, but great things. And so you just never know who you're going to learn something from. Be willing to learn from all walks of life, because there's a lot of people that can offer a lot of different things. And that experience, that one stands out still to this day. That this is shit. This is 30 years later, 31 years later. Yeah, something like that. And
Wow.
and Jimmy Wolf Sr. still stands out to me. And it's quite a quite a unique deal. And then I've had some pretty good bosses in my career that, they let me, and this is a general experience. My best bosses they gave me enough guidance, and then they gave me the freedom to figure stuff out, and then they'd come back in and, point fingers at it or whatever and help me reshape it so it was really the best it could be. And I continue to manage that way myself. I'm not in the middle of people's stuff. I try to give them the tools they need. I try to clear the road, and when we're about ready to go out in the field and execute something, we revisit all that and make sure we shot all the holes in it before it happens outside. So
Very cool. That story is pretty crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. We had a lot of crazy times, Jimmy
Yeah.
Wolf and I.
You never know the circumstances of the people you're talking to.
It was quite a crew. He came with a big crew too. They all came together. One of his journeymen was Johnny Walker. So Johnny Walker he had a beard all the way down to here.
Jeez.
He was scared to go in a blue room. So when he went to the bathroom, because that's what you have outside, he'd leave the door open. He was a character. Oh my God, it was it was good times. It was awesome.
Yeah,
That was some of the best couple of years of my career, actually being outside, and mostly it's because of the characters we had and the things we were doing. It was just awesome.
yeah, that's very cool. All right, I think this is my last one for you. What trends are changing your industry right now? And then what do you think your industry will look like in 5 to 10 years?
Oh man, now you're talking about my job. That's what I'm supposed to know. I don't know. Things are changing so rapidly. You guys are really in a time of of change with all this the AI stuff. Our company's really trying to figure out how can we utilize those things, and we are. I mean, we're it's early, but for example, we have AI that now reads our documents. Like this job in Alaska, we have 10,000 pages of documents that we bid the job on.
Jeez.
So what it does, it reads all that shit, and then if we have a question, we can ask a question, and it'll find all the related topics to that, rather than us searching through it. It'll also we have to do submittals on our part that meet the requirements of these documents. So it'll review our submittal now, and it'll review the documents provided by the government, make sure our submittal is good. Which before that's somebody doing that. So it's not perfect yet, but it's just going to keep getting more perfect. So we're trying to find other uses like that. And I would say you guys, that's where you guys jump into that world, understand it, and not understand that AI is artificial intelligence, but how do you use it? How can I use this to do the functions I need done? Um, and I'm really at a loss. To me, I don't. Thank God I got these younger folks working for me, but I don't know. I got I don't know, 5 to 10 years left. I'm not all that gung ho. I'd rather have these guys figured out. I know my job's safe from AI because I still gotta manage a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I don't have to dive in all the details. So, anyways, I'm sure every industry is jumping into that stuff. Other than that, our industry changed. It's really my industry, the construction industry, has gone from really, like I said earlier, just a step above a used car salesman to I think our industry has become more professional with our craftsmen or the way we conduct business. More and more companies are just more professional, so we get a little more. We're getting a little more respect now as a business. But I don't know. We're still dealing with people's time and money at the end of the day, and that gets people excited.
Yeah. You always hear about how AI is going to take over, and I feel like it's more of a AI is going to help make things better rather than, take people's jobs and everything.
Yeah, it's going to reshape it somehow. A really good example of that is at the port of LA, the longshoremen, they unloaded ship containers since time began, right? They got their cranes and they got the humans that go rig it up to the crane, and they drop the Conex box on a truck, and somebody drives a truck where it goes, and a forklift picks it up, puts it on top. Well, right next to the port of LA, the port of Long Beach automated the whole system. And the longshoremen were pissed. They're like, we're going to not have jobs. You guys are just trying to get rid of us, push us out. Well, as it turns out, every one of the positions that used to be the manual, rig all this stuff up and do all this stuff, now what it is they're all electricians and mechanical craftsmen because those systems all need to be updated, repaired. So instead of doing the manual labor side of things, you're doing the maintenance side of things. So that
Yeah.
the jobs shifted and the port is much more efficient because of it. And the longshoremen still have their jobs. And so it didn't impact them as nearly as much as everybody thought. The media just makes everything a big deal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. So anyways, yeah, I think you're right. It's AI is going to help us and you're going to adjust. It's going to help you do something else and it's going to allow your generation to do something we never did before because you have time over here. The
Yeah.
world's not going to stop.
That's very cool. Well, thank you for your time today. I
Yeah.
appreciate you letting me interview you.
Yeah. Good hearing from you. Come visit.
Yeah, I will. Absolutely. I gotta find some time. I think next summer. I'm trying to find an internship right now, but if that doesn't work out, or if I'm in,
Or are you looking for an internship
um, I'm
in
kind of
Salt Lake City
looking.
or
Sorry.
Salt Lake City or going back home or just somewhere?
Honestly, either or. I wouldn't be opposed to staying in Salt Lake, but being home would be nice too. So
Yeah.
kind of kind of dependent on what I can find. But I want a wealth management job. That's or an internship. That's kind of my goal right now, or like a wealth advisor. So
Got it. Trying to think. Calder's dad's in that realm. I know a lot of
yeah,
people in his world, but I don't know exactly what they do.
yeah. That's what my brother's out in Houston. He just got his job and he's working for Mission Wealth.
Yeah.
He's doing that now, and
It's awesome.
I think he's enjoying the Texas life. He's gotten his barbecue and everything. So I told him I'm gonna go visit him and get some food.
Yeah. You better go before summer. You don't want to be there in August. Trust me.
Yeah, that's what everybody always tells me. It's pretty miserable in the heat.
it's tough. Well, you've been to Florida. It's like that.
Yeah, I lived in Florida. I was born there.
I thought you lived there for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not my favorite. I was like 2 years
No.
old, but visiting is probably the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I don't. Kate, well, obviously Jacob's uncle Chris lives there, and when it's time to visit, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
last time we went in July, so it's freaking hot.
yeah, that's worst time to go.
Yeah,
The hottest month.
cool, man. It was good talking to you.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah,
Thank you
good
again
luck the rest of the
for.
semester. Come visit.
Will do. I'll
All
have to
right, talk to you
talk to
later.
Jacob
Bye.
about it.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Talk
Bye
to you
bye.
later. Bye bye.